When I started building the main mast, I quite substantially underestimated the effort that it would require. If you look at these plastic components, there's not much to them, but then when you add on all this photo etch, and the majority of it is rather delicate photo etch, it becomes quite a bit more complicated. And then on top of that, there are some corrections that need to be made as well. So all of that together makes what looks like quite a simple component to construct actually something that's quite complicated. So, while I thought that this would be a single video for the complete construction and installation of the main mast, it's actually going to be spread across 3 videos. The first video will show the modification and construction of the parts for the lower part of the main mast. As always, the process starts with removing the plastic components from their sprue and then removing the excess plastic with a bar file. After which, I move on to the first modification. This block at the bottom of the mast is completely wrong. It needs to be removed and replaced with a more angled and open structure. To remove the block, I saw it off. That is just to preserve the plastic. If I were to hack at this with clippers, it would distress the plastic and potentially distort the mast. I don't want any of that to happen, so a saw is safest. Also want to preserve this notch at the bottom just to help properly locate the mast on the deck. Since this area is going to be quite concealed, I don't need to put too much effort into cleaning up the interior of the structure. You won't be able to see in here because it's going to be too close to the aft superstructure. After removing the plastic block, I now need to prepare sections of styrene stock to build this replacement structure. Here I'm just using the chopper to cut sections that I think are roughly the right dimensions. I don't have the actual plans for this area of the ship, so it's a bit of an estimation here, but I think this will be a pretty good representation anyway. After cutting all of the sections, I glue them in place using extra thick plastic cement. After around an hour, the plastic cement has sufficiently set so that I can handle the structure. It is now strong enough for me to be able to apply plastic putty. The plastic putty takes quite a while to dry, so I leave that for a couple of hours. Once it has fully dried, I file and sand off the excess putty. Since some of the areas on the structure are a bit difficult to get to with sandpaper and files, I am concerned that the surface is a bit too rough. So, to fix those defects, I spray the entire component with Mr. Surfacer 500. After the surfacer has dried, I do another round of sanding and then spray it with Mr. Surfacer 1000. That completes the construction of the modification to the base of the forward leg of the tripod mast. Now I need to glue it to the other 2 legs, the aft 2 legs. After removing the aft legs from the fret and cleaning them up a bit with the file, I then glue it to the forward leg. To ensure that the mast is going to sit properly on the deck and be nicely located in these recesses, I glue the mast together while holding it on the ship itself. I want to make sure that it is going to set correctly and stand nice and vertically. I don't want to have to be fighting this mast to get it into position after I've completed its construction and there's a whole lot of delicate photo etch on it. Once the extra thin plastic cement has set, I remove the tripod mast from the deck and fill the gaps with more plastic putty. The shape of this top section of the tripod mast isn't very good. It's been misshapen. It is as if the plastic didn't flow properly into the mold and there are these little divots or dimples in the plastic. Since I want the surface to be flat, I fill those dimples with plastic putty. Once again, after letting the plastic putty set, I remove the excess putty using a bar file and sandpaper. Yet again, to be sure that I have a nice finish, I spray the area with Mr. Surfacer 500, do another round of light sanding and then spray it with Mr. Surfacer 1000. I think that is now a passable base for the tripod mast, which means I can move up to work on the starfish platform. For the photo etch that comes with the FlyHawk kit, I need to reuse this plastic core from the plastic starfish platform that comes with the plastic kit. So I need to quickly liberate it from the plastic holding it captive. First I use clippers to remove the plastic struts, and then I use a file to clean up the surface at the base of the cylinder. This provides me with a nice smooth surface on the underside of the starfish platform that I can run a saw against and cleanly cut off this cylinder. Leaving the photo etch starfish platform attached to its fret, this is just to make it easier to handle, I glue the plastic cylinder to the underside of the starfish platform in the area that has been indicated by the etchings in the photo etch. The process of installing the photo etch struts then begins. Of all the struts, I think the one that is the most important to get into the right position is this long one that runs end to end that doesn't touch the plastic core. That's because if it's not perfectly centered, it's going to obstruct these struts that go around it. To ensure that the strut is correctly positioned, I placed it on the starfish platform without any glue, and then I position a second strut that intersects with it to help me align it correctly. Once I'm happy with the alignment of these two struts, I glue down the strut that intersects with this long one that doesn't touch the core. To ensure that it is correctly aligned, I repeat the process using the mirror strut, and after doing that, I am happy with everything's position, so I can proceed with installing all of the other struts. This is quite a methodical process. I just start at one end and slowly work my way around, doing the mirrored image of each strut as I go. After installing all of the struts, I remove the starfish platform from its fret. The starfish platform is now ready to be installed on the mast. The most important thing here is to make sure that the starfish platform is setting in the correct orientation. It needs to be level on all axes, and when viewed from above, it needs to be correctly centered about the ship's midline. The hole in the base of the cylinder is just tight enough to hold the starfish platform in place, but still has enough room for me to be able to position the platform on all axes. I take quite a bit of time to get this right, making small adjustments until I'm happy with its position. Once I am happy with the position of the platform, I carefully remove the tripod mast from the deck, and then fill the gap between the top of the mast and the cylinder at the base of the starfish platform with extra thin superglue. The tripod mast and its platform is then set aside for the superglue to set. Once the superglue has set and I'm happy that it is not going to move, I can then continue with installation of the photo etch. Next, I'm going to install the photo etch for the platforms. This platform that I'm using over here actually isn't for the area of the ship where I'm going to install it. According to FlyHawk, this platform should be the longer version, and this one that I'm installing in the place of the longer version is the one that they intended for me to install at the base of the mast where I did that correction with styrene stock. This is actually quite fortunate because from what I've seen, this platform shouldn't be very long. This one is actually the perfect length, and the one that was provided by FlyHawk was far too long. Before I realized that I was going to have to modify that structure at the base of the mast, I was going to cut the long version to properly fit within this area. So by doing that correction, it actually made things a little bit easier for me with this photo etch. You'll see in the next video why it is important that this platform isn't too long. Essentially, there's like a boom that has to stick out here, and if the platform was too long, it wouldn't be able to go out at the right angle. Anyway, folding this little platform is a bit tricky. I generally don't like it when the handrails are attached to the platforms. It just makes them very difficult to fold. I always think to myself I should just snap it off and fold it and then glue it back in place, but for whatever reason I never do that. So once again I battle through folding it in place. Here the thing that really makes it a bit tricky is that it doesn't have right angles on the corners. You've got to do this curve, and doing a curve while it's attached to the deck is actually quite difficult. If it had right angles and score lines in it, then it would be trivial, and having it attached to the deck wouldn't be a problem. But it is what it is, and it's not too much to deal with anyway. After folding and gluing the handrail to the platform is then glued to the plastic ledge using extra thin superglue. Turning my attention back down to the modified lower structure, here I just need to fold a custom hand railing. To do this, I chose a section of 2-rung hand railing, and then through a process of trial and error figured out the correct dimensions to fold it. Here, the photo etch folding tool is very useful to get nice crisp corners. To install the handrail, I apply extra thick superglue to one of the rungs of the handrail and then place it in contact with the platform. The bond is then reinforced across its entire length using extra thin superglue that I apply with a wire. This is where I'm going to end the video. There has already been quite a lot to get to this point. Surprisingly, there's still quite a lot to do on this lower part of the main mast, so that is what I'll continue with in the next video. It mostly entails constructing the components for the derrick, and then installing an additional boom and painting and weathering everything. If you would like to support this channel or see how the ship looks when it is completed, then please subscribe. Thanks for watching. Cheers.